Hello, my love. Welcome back to Arouse for another episode. And if you're new around here, welcome. I'm your host, Sam. Today we are in episode 3 of the Breakup mini-series, and I am talking about what to do to get back to the real you after a breakup. I'm sharing mistakes I've made and this unknown secret of what you need to do to get back to the true you after a breakup that you've lost yourself in. So let's get into all the tea. Warning, the following presentation is intended for mature audiences. It includes stigma topics like sex, addictions, mental illness, adult dialogue, and strong language. Viewer discretion is advised. Yes! Episode number 3. Here we go. It can be so soul-crushing to look back at a relationship and see how much you lost yourself for your partner and changed for them. You turn into this person that you don't even recognize in the mirror anymore. So today's episode, I'm talking about what you can do to get back to the real you after a breakup, after you have lost yourself, and you can get back to being the amazing woman that you are. It can look different in so many different ways, whether you felt like you stayed in a relationship longer than you wanted but didn't know how to leave. You don't like the way that you handled certain things or let yourself be bulldozed by your partner and let your boundaries be stepped all over the place. Or maybe it was even letting your in-laws cause problems in your relationship. Whatever you're struggling with right now from your previous relationship and now post-breakup, it's important to give yourself grace. Not saying that you don't take responsibility for the things that you let or didn't let happen for yourself. It's important to give yourself grace and look back at that ultimately as a lesson or a teaching moment for yourself. So for example, I mentioned maybe you feel guilty for staying in a relationship longer than you wanted. I'm going to tell you a little story of how that looks like for me and how I moved on from that. So in one of my relationships, I had felt that it had been dragging on even though we hadn't been together for very long. I was waiting ultimately for him to give me a way out. I was staying in the relationship for the wrong reasons, and looking back at that now, there is no amount of money that I will stick around for to deal with the shit that I had to put up with. There was a huge financial incentive to stay with him long term because of his family's money. And that is a big reason why I ended up staying so long in the relationship at the end. Because I was like, you know what? If I stay with him, if we get married, I could potentially inherit a lot of money with him from his family. And, I wouldn't have to ever worry. And I let that blind me because with the amount of money that his family had, it was like, oh, I'm safe. I'm pretty much set for life if I stay with him just because of his family's money. And I didn't realize that I was so miserable at the time. And I ultimately ignored those feelings because I was so focused on this financial incentive of staying with him long term. When in fact, I was never going to let that become the deciding factor of me staying with him. Because there is literally no amount of money where I'm going to stay with someone in a relationship where I don't want to be, or I'm going to end up being very miserable for a very long time. In different situations with clients, I have been bulldozed and my boundaries have been stepped on by clients in exchange for a large amount of money, in the sense that, oh, if I got this thing done or if I helped them do this and I went outside of my business hours and they would supplement me with extra money for it to make up for the time that I had to spend extra with them, it still wasn't worth it because they were a fucking nightmare to deal with. And that was a big lesson that I had to learn in a professional relationship. It also translated and showed me in other parts of my life in different relationships that doesn't matter what money is at stake, I'm not going to stick around no matter how much money I might get out of it, because that's devaluatizing myself and letting my boundaries be stepped on, which I don't allow anymore. I used to, and hence I created, it was originally called Her Little Black Book of Boundaries, and it had turned into 6 need-to-know secrets to establishing healthy boundaries within your relationships. I went through how many different relationships in my life to realize how my boundaries were getting stepped on, how I wasn't sticking to my boundaries, and eventually teach myself how to create healthy boundaries and end up sticking to them so I wouldn't get taken advantage of. I wouldn't get bulldozed and end up feeling powerless in situations when I always had the power. It's just I never used it. I never thought I could use it. With my ebook that I created, it shows you the 6 steps that you need to take and these 6 secrets in order to establish healthy boundaries in any relationship in your life. In this ebook, you get to discover the secrets to creating healthy boundaries. I teach you how to get the respect that you've always deserved, master the inner work that will transform all of your relationships now and in the future. If you're ready to create healthy boundaries for yourself today, then head over to bit.ly/boundaries ebook. That's bit.ly/boundaries ebook. There is $2,439 worth of bonuses plus the ebook that you get for only $27 today. So regularly I sell this for $47, but today it's only $27. You better get it now before I increase the price because it's not going to stay at $27 forever. Another big thing that I regret is letting my in-laws cause problems within my relationship. There have been a couple situations where I had in-laws put themselves inside my relationship and try to cause problems. One example was my ex's mom would tell him that she thinks I'm cheating on him. And so then he would confront me, ask if I was cheating on him, and I'd blatantly ask him, where did you get this from? Why do you think that? And he would tell me, well, my mom said that you were talking about this friend of yours and she thinks that you're cheating on me with him, which is ironic because I was actually talking to her about this friend of mine that his wife had cheated on him, felt so sorry for him, and I thought it was awful that his wife was cheating on him, and he just found out of nowhere, and then they were working through on getting a divorce, and I felt like so upset for him and angry because I had seen what affairs have done to married couples before, and seeing that secondhanded is just terrible. I don't wish that upon anyone. And so she instead took that, twisted it to tell her son that, I think Sam's cheating on you, and then he confronted me. So there had been a couple instances like that. This is the woman that also accused me of having a crush on her husband and accusing my mother of trying to steal her husband. And this is all very ironic because she cheated on her son's dad with someone else twice. So it's interesting how someone who cheated on her own partner twice with 2 different people is then accusing other people of cheating on her son or trying to steal her husband or whatever. But in the end, I let her have power in our relationship, getting very upset with the way that she did that instead of giving it no power and being like, well, she has no grounds on accusing me and I didn't do anything, taking all the power away from her in that whole situation. But instead, I made it this big deal, which gave the situation way more power. That was a big mistake that I made. And in a couple instances where the moms didn't like me and my partner at the time, my boyfriend, whoever it was, claimed that they had stood up for me when I wasn't there. It's hard to say yes, they did that or no, they didn't because you're not there. And you would love to trust them and know that, they are sticking up for you in front of their mom or their dad, their parents, whoever their parental figure is. Ultimately, you don't really know the truth unless you're there to witness it. And in one instance, my ex's mom was screaming at me with these horrible things to say about me, and he just stood there and said nothing. So when he had said previously that he would stand up for me when I wasn't there, it made me question that when we were, the 3 of us, in a situation where she was screaming at me outside and I just had to stand there and take it while he just stood there, looked at the ground, played with the leaves on the ground with his foot and said nothing. And he didn't stand up for me once. So in that instance, it made me question whether or not he actually stood up for me in front of his mom when I wasn't there because he couldn't do it when I was physically there. And ultimately, that was another option where I could have just gotten all my stuff after the yelling had stopped and I could have said, you know what, we're over. I'm done with this. I'm not dealing with this anymore. And I could have left him. And I decided not to, even though he forced me to say I'm sorry to his mom when actually she was the one that needed to apologize to me. There was a lot of manipulation going on within that relationship. Looking back at all of my mistakes after each breakup, I did this one thing, and I'm going to share it with you that it will be helpful for you as well, because it's something that I do myself on a daily basis for a bunch of things in the past. And I teach this to my clients as well, is you need to forgive yourself. Even if it wasn't your fault that it happened, it's your responsibility to forgive yourself. Forgiveness is this amazing energy that releases you from terrible things, and especially bitterness and hardening your heart. And eventually, I do encourage you to forgive everyone else in your life that has done you wrong. I'm not saying you have to do it today or tomorrow, in 2 weeks, but it's important to forgive people for the wrongdoings that they've done to you, so that you can also forgive yourself. This is something that no one fucking teaches you, that, you're supposed to forgive everyone else. Yes, people teach you that as you're growing up, but they don't teach you need to forgive yourself for the bad things that have happened to you and the things that people have done wrong to you. You also need to forgive yourself and stop guilting yourself for it. You can take it as a lesson, a teaching moment for yourself, that it's like, I'm never going to let this happen again, and this is how I'm going to do that. But you also need to forgive yourself. So I had to forgive myself for getting into certain relationships, for staying in relationships, for letting my in-laws have way more control than they were ever supposed to have, because I don't believe that in-laws are supposed to have that kind of influence on you in your relationship whatsoever. I believe that they should stay in their own business just like anyone else. It's none of your business what's going on in anyone's relationship, and to try and cause problems within your kid's relationship with their partner, which is your son-in-law or daughter-in-law or whatever, is wrong. And I find that one of the most effective ways to forgive yourself is to write a letter of forgiveness to yourself. Make it a present tense letter. So even if you haven't 100% forgiven yourself, writing out, I forgive myself for the past relationships that I've been in, the mistakes I've made, staying in a relationship too long, losing myself in a relationship, getting abused. You do need to forgive yourself, because you deserve forgiveness from yourself over these things that have happened. What happens when you forgive yourself is you can move forward. You can create a better life for yourself. You live life with less regret, guilt, shame, all those things that hold you back from doing what you want. It's not going to be an excuse anymore, because you've forgiven yourself and you've let go of that. So your homework today is to write yourself a forgiveness letter. You can make it as long as you want. I encourage you to make it at least a paragraph and write it out with a physical piece of pen and paper, because that's going to have a bigger impact on you than typing it on your phone, typing it on the computer, because even once you are done writing your forgiveness letter to yourself and you read it to yourself, you can ultimately do two things, whether you want to save it in a very special box and reread it, or this is a way of releasing some of your demons. And you can do that by being very careful, because you're going to take a lighter and this piece of paper and you're going to go outside, not in your house, and you're going to light it on fire and you're going to burn it and watch it burn. And that's another way for you to let that go. So go do your homework for the day, because this is going to be a powerful fucking exercise and I really encourage you to do it. Don't forget to sign up for the free Breakup Resource Vault at bit.ly/Breakup Vault. So that's bit.ly/Breakup Vault to sign up for your free account now. And if you're really struggling to create healthy boundaries for yourself and you're tired of getting bulldozed by every person in your life with every relationship, then head over to bit.ly/boundaries ebook. That's bit.ly/boundaries ebook. And it's only $27 today before the price goes up. So make sure you grab it before I raise the price. I will see you tomorrow for episode number 4, and I love you so much.